We're gonna do our eyebrows probably right sometime, but for now we just appreciate the eyebrows, so we would want the eyebrows fine for our Saturday fashion photo also. And while we are doing our fashion photo Saturday, quickly share an inspiration of song. I've just seen some a post now on my Instagram page that we live in a world where we have to educate ourselves that some things that we do are meant to be. And I know I'm now going to be one of those people that love to talk with the nails because it's very nice to talk with the nails. And when we live in a world where we are often questioned with what it is that we are doing, in the world where we are often questioned with our businesses, questioned with how we manage our businesses, questioned with how we own our businesses, and questioned with how we are meant to present our businesses, right? How we meant to present ourselves in this world. I've just come familiar with the lyrics of what I'm going to just quickly present. For everything we do, for everything we say, for everything we ought to sometimes have to explain. And the lyrics of what I'm saying reminds me of the season that our generation are experiencing. It reminds me of the season where we have to allow ourselves to be kind with ourselves, where we have to allow ourselves to be kind with how we present ourselves in our seasons. And when we present ourselves in our seasons, we have to allow ourselves to listen to what it is that we are required to explain about ourselves. And in the craziness of all that I am saying, the song goes, for everything we are, for everything we do, for everything we ought to explain, for everything we are, for everything we do, for everything we ought to explain. But how can we explain in a world where there is so much that are yet to have to be accepted? And how can we explain in a world that has not yet learned to accept itself? I know that sometimes when I keep the camera like that, then my odd chip teeth is all over the place sometimes in the video. But don't be distracted by that, because sometimes I keep the video under and then the odd teeth is sometimes out. And I keep the video but lower sometimes, under and low and under and low, interestingness. And how can we explain so much in our season that everyone requires us to explain? In a season that everyone requires us to accept ourselves, when everything about where the world finds themselves at is that we live in a world where the world has not yet learned to accept itself. The people that are owning businesses in this world that has the advantage to advance the world into the world that is a world of acceptance have not learned to educate themselves to accept themselves and to therefore accept business owners. And it does not have to only do with business, because remember, business is business, and business to us sound like building an office. But remember, everything that we do and where we find ourselves at relates to the provision, relates to that we are provided for. That it's fine out someone in Al Jazeera 2021 had my orange top on, Malvina had orange on, the orange post went viral, and now every time my whole cupboard is full of orange, and every time I'm educating and I'm gonna now wear my orange, then someone is gonna want to relate my business and send it to Malvina's Isa business. Now I have to so many times learn to teach the world that where I'm at with my AWOKH business is when I wear my orange and when I design my orange in my season. It is because I live in a world where acceptance is everything, Rabia Elise. And everything that I educate in my season is that I'm now not gonna be Mahalia Buchanan and Benjamin Dube's team in Johannesburg that has the advantage, and yet they find themselves having to oppress the one the other sometimes. And South Africa have had a tendency of having other people enjoying the backbone of it. And because we are African women, and because our house, the African house, looks like that, we have to allow ourselves to be the Rabia Elise that is kind to herself in my music career, that is kind to myself in my business career, that is kind to myself in my household upbringing, that I present my own orange, I present my own season, that I'm fine with everyone that says that we are women that wears the same color. That we are not fine to say that on the day that Rabia had her orange derived from that one's business or from that one's business or from that one's business. It is that we live in a world where Rabia Elise have learned to accept herself. And my business purpose is exactly the acceptance that I owe myself. That with my chipped tooth on any other day, I've learned to accept where I find myself at with appreciating everything, Rabia Elise. And therefore, when I educate in my season, and when I respond to the requirement for me to respond to my season, that I do not want the world to educate themselves that everyone wears orange on their day. And then I want to be the Rabia Elise that says that when Al Jazeera presented orange to the world in 2022, and Al Jazeera said, but Rabia Elise says orange that Rabia Elise has on an AWOKH business with her H&M coat, where Rabia buys her clothing, her H&M orange dress that she's wearing. That was exactly when America invited the presenter into the Al Jazeera room. And the presenter had a television show about Rabia's orange. And Rabia's H&M behind the orange and the Zara shoes. And then Malvina posted on her Aisha business that she's wearing orange, everyone. And while we are in a season where the finances of our businesses are diverted to different houses, we have to, as African women, educate ourselves that this is Rabia Elise, the person, and this is Rabia Elise's education in season. And whoever wants to own the music industry in Johannesburg, that is Benjamin Dube, Mahalia Buchanan, them for themselves, that is them. That where Rabia Elise educates from, when I wear my Mama Anna Philander H&M coat, and I am warmly coated in my mama coat. And my mama coat is exactly that my mama in the universe coats me in the warmth of my season. And then I do not want Al Jazeera News to go and have an African discussion about everyone wears orange and everyone wears, and Malvina wears Rabia's New Orleans veil clothes on Malvina's 40th birthday, and Rabia has to wait for AWOKH finances. And then Rabia says that I do not care how world rulers decide to have their wars and to have their discussions and decide to want to rule the world. But when it relates to my AWOKH business, then I present and represent my womb, and I present and represent myself. We live in a world where no one has wars around our businesses. And if business people want to aggress people out of businesses in this world, then that's up to those people who want to aggress themselves. But as for us who's a young generation in business, it is our responsibility to educate that where I found myself at in my season, I present myself. And when we have to be firm and direct to where we are at in our seasons, then we have to be firm and direct in saying that whoever the oppressor that used to be the apartheid oppressor is, that find themselves in the African house and that wants to educate African women to oppress themselves, that today, being an African woman, I arise my season to teach African women how to present yourself in your season. And when we do that, because we deal with a world that has educated themselves that oppression are fine, that Africa sitting in poverty for years are fine, that certain Africa countries has had the opportunity to build and to construct themselves. And then Rabia Elise says that whoever the African oppressor is in our season, whether it comes from the African people themselves, whether it's someone else educating the house of Africa to oppress one another, and then I, Rabia Elise, say, we have to uprise being women, and we have to educate ourselves to allow ourselves to present and to represent ourselves. So many people didn't have the opportunity to rise another day because of the oppression of this world. And where people did not get the opportunity to wake up another morning, AWOKH Business says we are in the awokenness of calling ourselves up the next morning, of waking ourselves up in our seasons, of responding to our every seasons. And I educate on my AWOKH Business that for me to respond is for me to be alive and well to be able to respond in my season. And therefore, while we are in a season where certain people are having discussions around your name and it seems like no one is talking about you, let us allow ourselves, our seasons, to present ourselves in our own days, because that is what we are due and what we owe ourselves. Have an amazing Saturday with us.